sometimes these drops can be enigmatic. Sometimes they can be very explicable. I mean, Tesla had a remarkable drop too, and I think that it's somewhat easier to target some of the pivot points there that disturb people. Was there anything specific about Salesforce that kind of got people nervous?
Well, the entire tech sector was going down that same sledding board in 2002, and the departure of the co-CEO last fall certainly didn't help.
Right.
It down to its final lows. But I guess Salesforce is like any of those big tech stocks that seem to be able to do no wrong for so many years, and they were full of people making $400,000 to be content strategists or whatever they do.
One thing that intrigues me, I was looking at, speaking of billionaires, Ken Griffin's Citadel had a record of 16 billion profit last year. More generally, how have the billionaires done? Was it a good year for them?
Well, it depends who you were. Ken Griffin certainly has had a good year. He's had a good 30-year period. Over that period of time, he's made $66 billion for his investors. That's a little over $2 billion per year. And he's definitely the king of the road right now.
If you were to characterize his strategy in this environment, you're a big person who, listen to me. You are one who is very much an advocate for defensive stocks in this environment. Was that really the strategy that paid dividends, no pun intended, last year?
Well, yeah, last year that was the place to be in conservative value stocks, those with high dividend yields. But if you wanted to characterize the strategy of Citadel and its head man, I would say that Griffin is a quantitative investor, he looks at stocks, not just the technicals, not just the fundamentals. He creates models that tell him what a good stock looks like. And it may change from time to time.
Connecting the dots in many ways. Yeah.
In fact, we recently added a couple of stocks that Ken Griffin is also into in the Forbes Billionaire Investor. Like I told you, we were trying to go for clusters of billionaires. Now, here's a good lineup. And I know people generally aren't big fans of George Soros, but Soros he's been doing it. He's one of the OGs of this business. He was one of the first to operate a hedge fund. And anyway, so Soros, Ken Griffin, Stephen Cohen, who owns the New York Mets. You might know who he is. Mario Gabelli, he's been around a long time. Izzy Englander, he is from Millennium, which is one of the top hedge funds in the world. And Cliff Asness of AQR Capital Management. So you've got these 6 prominent billionaire investors who have all invested in a stock that they hope not to lose their shorts in. No pun intended, or actually very much intended. The stock is Hanes Brands, HBI. And if you don't know what Hanes underwear is, yeah. So Hanes was $21, over $21 back in April of 2021. It got down below $7 recently, and we're back above $8 per share now. And it's got a dividend yield that's just below 8%. You look at the stock, and here's an interesting thing to consider, and it might freak you out or just give you a sense of challenge. The biggest competitor to Hanes Brands is Fruit of the Loom, which since 2002 has been owned by Oracle of Omaha. Exactly. Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway. So if you're buying, I was
wrong, actually. So I said Warnaco, which of course is affiliated with Jeffrey Epstein. And so let me step that back. So it's owned by Warren Buffett. So clearly a value stock.
Buffett's team bought it back in 2002. Last year was a pretty bad one if you were in the underwear business, because commodity costs, supply chains, and all that, cotton costs were through the roof. And they've had competition from other companies like Gildan up in Canada. Being a good Canadian, you might be aware of them. GIL, I think, is their ticker symbol. But Hanes Brands, It's one of those stocks I've always looked at and gone, it's burned me before. I'm not gonna. And then we saw these billionaires involved with it. So Hanes Brands looks like a very nice stock to get into, with all these billionaires into it. Another one that Ken Griffin recently got into, along with Izzy Englander, Cliff Asness, and the family of a deceased billionaire named Fayez Sarofim, is Ball Corporation. If you're a basketball fan, you might like to watch the Denver Nuggets play at the Ball Arena in Denver. Ball is based out there in the Denver area. They are the biggest maker of metal cans in the world, and that could mostly for beer and soda, but also for things like peas and
Oh, and
corn niblets
commodity
and things
prices
like
have
that at the
not
grocery
fit
store.
them. That's interesting.
Uh, not really a huge dividend yield, but 1.5%. But Ball has been around since the late 1880s. Their first big success, if you will, was the Mason jar, which fell out of patent protection in 1879. And at that time, just about everybody in the country had a garden in their backyard and were canning goods. And the
Well,
Mason
we